welcome everybody, and good morning to you as well. Thank you for joining us, and here live at the Care Community GCCM in London. My name is Eric, and today we're going to talk about the wholesale telco industry in the digital transformation era. So all the challenges and opportunities we see. Of course, I will not do this alone, and I would like to give the word quickly to my fellow panelists. And Cesare, maybe if I can start with you, please.
Yeah, sure.
Introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cesare Chalupa. I'm head of growth at Enxoo, and to cut the story short, in Enxoo we perceive ourselves as guides to digital transformation within the telecommunications sector. This is what we do. This is what we're good at. Okay,
thank you so much, Cesare, and good having you, because later on you'll share with us your presentation. Thank you so much. So, René, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Good being here again. A lot of people, so that's always good. René de Bademaker, Director of Supplier Management of Experio. Experio, the leading intelligent internet platform, connecting anyone, anything, anywhere.
Ayush, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Ayush Barod, the Chief Commercial Officer at Banca Group. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good having you. And let's go virtually. We have Jeff. Jeff, welcome.
Jeff Owen. I'm a managing partner at Cambridge Management Consulting, looking at digital transformation. And I have over 35 years experience in the telecom sector. So looking forward to the debate.
Fantastic, and thank you, Jeff. Good having you here with us. So thank you for that. Brendan, welcome.
Thank you very much. Brendan Press, CCO at Gulf Bridge International. We're a submarine cable provider for the Middle East, covering the Gulf territories and up to Europe, down to India and across to Asia. And not quite as much experience as Jeff, 25 years in industry. And now focused on the infrastructure as how we support the tremendous growth industry is experiencing.
Thank you very much, Brendan, and fantastic having you virtually. And as we said, next time you'll be here live. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think that this gentleman needs any.
You forget me.
Needs any introduction. And his name is Edwin van Ierland, and I know him since a very long time, and I can consider him as a friend of mine as well. And I present you actually here, ladies and gentlemen, the new CEO of iBasis, Edwin van Ierland. So please, Edwin, maybe.
Thank you, Eric. Indeed. It has been announced last week, the CEO of iBasis, the voice and the mobile data part. And that's a result of the recent acquisition we did with Symphony, is that we are separating the company in two parts. One is the voice and mobile data part, and the other one is the IoT part. And I'm happy to be here. And indeed, Eric, our time goes back decades ago, but I'm not going to share all the details, but focus on the future. Thank you.
Absolutely, and thank you for being here. And again, Edwin, congratulations with your new position. And it's how it should be. So fantastic. So having said that, and having that scoop here as well at the GCCM here in London, Cesare, I'm happy to give you the floor, and you're going to talk us through what? Tell me.
Yeah, actually, again, hello everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I will have a great pleasure and privilege to say a few sentences on wholesale telco and digital transformation era. And hopefully I will be able to convey some messages, some impressions. But before I do that, let me say a few words on Enxoo in order for you to better understand where those thoughts and impressions are coming from. In Enxoo, we are 250 telecom professionals, telecom experts with more than 100 projects under our belt and more than 20 years of experience in the field. In fact, the company was founded by former telco executives, so you can imagine we're quite passionate about the telecommunications itself. What we do consulting, we do solutions tailored towards the telecommunications industry. as I mentioned before, we perceive ourselves as guides to the digital transformation within the telco sector, especially for international wholesale carriers, enterprise B2B, and FTTH, basically. And having said that, let me proceed with what I want you to see. And let's start with the industry of the future. Imagine the telco industry in the future. Imagine the perfect telco company of the future, a not very distant one, say 10 years from now. What do you see? I think the first thing you should see at the moment is millennials, ladies and gentlemen. People born after 1987, 1990. People fueled by dopamine, people addicted to dopamine, people immersed in the mobile phones and addicted to dopamine. You're probably familiar with what dopamine feedback loop is. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter which is responsible for stimulating our reward system in our brains. To cut the story short, it's feel-good hormone device. And what it really does is it's released each time we browse social media, we perform the actions within the social media, and we get the reactions in form of shares, likes, comments, and stuff. And bear with me for a while. Exchange social media with workplace. Exchange actions with ordering, activating, deactivating the service. And the reward or the reactions replaced with actual activation of the service or provisioning of the service. And you have a ready dopamine feedback loop within your company. And the question is, are you ready for this? Because, ladies and gentlemen, 75% of your workforce, 75% of the people buying your services, regarding of the fact if it's B2B or B2C, will be millennials by 2025. It's just 3 years from now. Those will be people requiring, used to getting everything on click, on demand, on time, right here, right now. And the question is, are you ready for them? And having said that, I can now go to this industry on the future. What would be the industry of the telco industry of the future? First of all, 7G mobile networks, right? We have 5G now, but you probably know that we have one mobile generation every 4 years. So in 10 years' time, probably like 7G or something, right? SD-WAN everywhere. I mean, software-defined networks everywhere, because networks are already virtualized, right? So there are software-defined networks everywhere. IoT ecosystem, Internet of Things ecosystem will be counted in trillions or at least mega billions, and edge computing everywhere. Nobody's talking about migrating to the cloud anymore. Everybody's in the cloud, right? So nobody stores the data locally. Nobody stores the applications locally. Everybody's streaming. And continuous digital transformation is not an empty slogan anymore. It's not a safe slogan. It's just ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Everybody does it. And of course, last but not least, endless demand for capacity. We have first signs of that now already, but both individuals and B2B, both B2C and B2B will be devouring capacity and the speed of light. And having said all of that, the question might appear: how our competition will look like in this not very distant future? First of all, ladies and gentlemen, classic telco approach of wait and see, it's not gonna cut it anymore. It's gonna be a losing strategy. Our competition will be far ahead of us, and only those companies that will move quickly, that will make bold steps towards the future, that will experiment with new approaches, with new strategies, and failing quickly, paradoxically, will be rewarded by the future. Of course, it requires investments too, but only those quick enough and adaptable enough and pivot ready enough will be rewarded by the future. So our competition will employ zero-touch processes. It means everything will be automated from the first click, from the order, from the kind of the buying action through deploying the service, provisioning, then change request, even network planning. Everything will be automated, and you might think why the future is so beneficial for our competitors. The answer is quite straightforward, because they already started. They already started doing that. They already started yesterday, or maybe there are companies that were just founded yesterday, like those SD1 companies that are already there are a lot of them, and there's happening, being created like on a daily basis, and. After the outlining of the future for us, let me come back for a while, for a minute or so, to the present, to now, to the company of now, company of today. And let me use some metaphor to explain where we are with our telecommunication sector today. And let me use this metaphor of this car. Let's assume, for the sake of this presentation, that this is our carrier. This is our car. As you can see, it's very good looking, it's very nice, probably very quick, well designed. But from the design itself, you can see that it's probably like some 40 years old, right? And of course, the fact of being 40 years old is not necessarily a bad thing, as probably majority of the people in this room may have said. So, but then what's a bit worse is that to propel this car, to propel this nice-looking car of ours, we need a whole bunch, a whole ecosystem of different systems. And the problem with those systems at the moment is that they are not talking to each other. I mean, they are just completely disparate systems. OSSs, DSSs, NMSs, CRMs, CDPs, whatever you like, right? They are not talking to each other. So the problem is that in a broader context, it means that we have to have a lot of people, a lot of manual work, and a lot of effort and money poured into maintenance of the hardware, software, applications, everything you can imagine. So, frankly speaking, at the moment is as obsolete as doing practical effects in Hollywood, the way which is shown on this picture. And now they use CGI, which is quicker, cheaper, and safer, right? So. Let me go quickly through the consequences of what I just said. First, constant shortage of talent. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody wants to work at the museum. Constant shortage of talent is one of our main problems at the moment. Second one, as I mentioned before, manual work, a lot of manual work. We need intermediaries between the systems. So we hire people to re-input the data, and many other things. So lots of manual work. No clear visibility, no operational visibility. Starting from sales funnel, ending with a clear disconnect between revenue items and cost items, which is a huge problem for big companies. And of course, poor and slow decision making, not because we are bad managers, but because we don't have data synthetic enough to base our decisions on. And the last but not least, being too late to the market. I will not elaborate on this one. I think everybody is familiar with what I'm talking about, being late to the market. So after outlining the problems, outlining the challenges that the telco companies of today may have while trying to get to this path of digital transformation, the question would appear, okay, so what would be the super carrier of the future? What would be the super carrier of the future? Not very distant one, I must say. 10 years, guys. First of all, it will be fully interconnected. The company of the future will be fully interconnected. And I mean both internally and externally. Internally, I mean the full cooperation between the systems, seamless, smoothless cooperation between the systems within the organization. Eliminate manual work, eliminating human behavior, human factor, human weakness, which is the main cause of our problems. And externally, and by externally, I mean using standardized open APIs of MEF/TM forum type, right? Because everybody knows how hellishly expensive and how hellishly difficult it is to onboard the classic way of API approach in telecommunications, proprietary, right? It's not scalable. It's expensive to get on board with those, and it takes a lot of effort. So what we need is full interconnection, full interoperability between us and our partners based on those standardized APIs. And we know they are already in use. Some of those are already in use, as we ourselves in Enxoo just implemented a few systems for our companies that already work on this basis. And one-click sourcing in this company of future will be able to source you one click. We'll be able to source the capacity and connectivity from outside of your network. Because once you have an API, once you have a smooth kind of way to get to your partner's network, it's just very easy to acquire some capacity, to acquire some interconnection, and everything else like serviceability check, like quotation, like order, like contract, then provisioning, billing, invoicing, could be done seamlessly, could be done in the background, just not invisibly for the person clicking to source some capacity or connectivity. And obviously, the last but not least is indefinitely shorter time to market, because everything I mentioned here, in fact, leads to indefinitely shorter time to market. And in shorter time to market, it really means optimizing our OPEX. It means more money, in terms of revenues, and it means much better user experience. So this is the company, the telco of the future, in not very distant one. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for bearing with me that long. Hopefully I will be able to spark some interesting discussion during the panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's see if you have any questions towards Cesare on the glance of the future of telco. What's going to happen? I think it was more than clear. It was more than clear. So thank you very much for this one, Cesare, and again,
My pleasure.
to give us the glance of the future. Now, to see if that's really the case, I would like to take you actually, if you allow me, a step back. So let's kick off with, let's say, what we currently see, and then I will take you through and to the right of, I would almost say ecstasy, but it's more to the future. So if I may start with you, Edwin, what is the current wholesale landscape about? What do we see, and what are the main challenges we see currently from your point of view?
Now, if you look at the current situation, then the past 2 years rapidly showed that we needed to change. The pandemic, and we are, now let's say the fact that we are now here physically together shows and illustrates that, let's say, the pandemic is over, the world is reopening, but in a different setting. The business models have completely changed, has become more complex. Carriers see that the traditional business is going into the cloud and that they are not prepared to facilitate that change that rapidly. So the digital transformation is, as we speak, on its way. Is it finished? No, not at all. I think many carriers are still struggling. Should we focus only on the network part, 5G, or should we focus on fiber? Or should we also serve the customer? And do we know the customer behind the customer as we speak? And so yes, let's say every wholesaler in this moment is, let's say, reviewing their options and looking at alternatives and looking at ways how to preserve the business as is and how to anticipate upon the future. I think it's spot on what you mentioned about what's going to happen in 2025 or years ahead of us. Things will change. The good part is that you still need the dinosaurs to support the millennials. So I consider myself as the first one. And that.
Okay, I'll come in a second. Okay, that's fine. I'm a dinosaur as well.
But
That was not funny, by the way, eh? My age. It's not funny.
But I had the COVID case, and perhaps we needed that pandemic to enforce that we needed to accelerate the digital transformation. But yeah, that's where we are now at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Ayush, I mean, from Banca, I mean, you're a global player as well. What do you see and how does digital transformation kick in?
Right. I mean, iBasis and our business models are similar in certain ways and different in many other ways. So from our perspective, yes, we see a lot of consolidation happening in all walks of the wholesale business, be it data, be it connectivity. A lot of companies are coming together, putting their heads together, along with the implementing the transfer, the digitalization, so to say. And like my colleague said, the super carrier is a great term, and I think something similar to this is what we are looking at as Bankai in order to consolidate, do major acquisitions, and then become a one-stop shop for multiple solutions. And I think that is the future, because as an enterprise or as an individual, you are not going to go to multiple points as it was in the yesteryears, that your fiber provider is A, your data center is B, and all the different services from different providers. So I think that is the future, along with the transforming it digitally and making it a kind of a portal, not completely as that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Ayush. So Brendan, let's go to another operator. Well, what's your take on the digital transformation in the wholesale area? What do we see currently?
Yeah, so I think the pandemic obviously was a shift in terms of the requirements on the infrastructure providers and the exponential dependency on the support of carriers and providing the capacities and the requirements as companies, enterprises, again, fast-forwarded their own digital transformation. People were dependent on services that were provided that time, and different services were born. And that change is ever fast happening. And I think for us as a carrier to support that major change which carries on, we need to be much better anticipating growth. I think the growth was a shock to a lot of carriers, and as much as we all did in the end, a fantastic job at meeting those requirements, that will continue to happen. And the better we are anticipating capacity requirements, the likes of the OTTs and their big requirements, and how their growth will continue is very important. I think the second thing is in terms of protection. And once was the situation where people would have outages and accept that and get on with things. Everything we do now is mission critical. So having that diversity and making sure if there are any issues that we provide protection to customers, that continuity is essential for these services. Third thing is the integration. I think it's all the chains are linked now, and it's very important that we have the connectivity to the data centers where a lot of the services are born and the transmission across the world in terms of how we can support those services. But that integration with data centers is critical, and the different carriers that we work with. The fourth thing is digitalization. We talked about it in the presentation. SDN networks allowing carriers to work automatically across each other and provide bandwidth on demand, again, providing the sort of levels that are needed in this new world. And the final thing I'd say, just in terms of our challenges, in terms of some of the new services that, again, changing the dynamics from capacity in itself, but to things like latency, how important low latency is in regarding to sort of gaming services, etc. So big challenges on the carrier community. And I think as an key infrastructure provider in this part of the world, we don't underestimate the responsibilities we have in securing this new future.
Thank you very much, Brendan. Jeff, before I come to you to give us your helicopter view from Cambridge Consulting, René, let's go Dutch again. Your views.
Yeah, I like the presentation because it's spot on, right? It's exactly what we're doing. It's also one of the reasons that Enxoo is one of our trusted partners in helping us in that journey. Experio, the leading intelligent network platform, says it all, right? We want to connect anything, anywhere, anyone in a secure and in a transparent manner. That's our goal. And we're preparing everything, aligning all the systems that we had, revamping the whole customer interaction. We don't separate wholesale, channel, partner, or enterprise. They're all customers. And eventually they all have the same needs. They all want to have that instant justification. They want to have that click at a finger button. They want to have insight in what they're doing, what they have, how they can change it, how they can upgrade it, whatever they want to do. And we're working full time on that. I think it's one of the biggest teams within Experio guiding that process.
Okay, thank you. Now, Jeff, you heard the guys. Give us your view on this one. Are they talking rubbish, or is it, or are they missing something?
No, they're not talking rubbish at all. Some of the things that we're seeing in Cambridge, just a couple of examples. Talking about the millennials and the way they work. We have done some research, and some of the younger people now are more comfortable and prefer using apps like WhatsApp rather than actually talking to someone. And I'm working with a major recruitment company, and their recruiters, because of the working from home, are now almost exclusively contacting clients and contacting prospects via WhatsApp. So that's a very big change away from, what used to be the norm within recruitment. You ring up, you have a chat, now they're using WhatsApp. So that's going to affect the carrier industry. But some of the things that we're seeing from a interoperability perspective, I think the physical and the network levels pretty much defined pretty well, working very well. But it's the application level, the interface with content providers using QoS, etc. The management aspects, the interoperability between the management systems, the accounting systems. There was some movement a while ago around using blockchain for inter-administration accounting, but so there are many things that are going on, and they're starting to pick up pace now. The other thing I would like to say is about Brendan mentioned about latency. Now we're seeing a lot of movement now on edge computing to reduce the latency, and I think that is something that is going to accelerate over the next 6, 9, 12 months. If you combine that with IoT, I think that's something that's going to be very prevalent in the industry over the next few years.
Okay, thank you. So let's dive a little bit in there. Let's move in there, because we're mentioning a lot of things, and let's hope that the audience really, let's say, gets up on. So, Cesare, 2 steps back again. Let's go 2 steps. From your point of view, and I think we all do agree, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit on this one. The digital transformation is impacting our carrier business models, for sure. We know this, everybody admits this is going to happen. But by applying new business strategies and models, what is, let's say, you mentioned it already, but can you give us an example of what would be, a good way forward?
I think it's good to start with what transformation isn't really, because there are a lot of confusion around it as well. The transformation, the digital transformation, is not about moving to the cloud. It's not about digitizing one process. It's not about deploying digital platforms. It's about it's more of a mental one. It's about realizing there is a problem within an organization, especially for legacy companies. There is a problem within an organization, and finding the way to solve the problem which is aligned with financial outcomes, especially for legacy companies which have a traditional kind of innovator's dilemma. A lot of business already with what I could call legacy technologies, like for example MPLS, right? And SD-WAN, which is
What was that about again? MP what?
That
was the buzzword years ago, guys.
Yeah, years ago. It was 20 years ago. It was 20 years ago when it started, and now it's already legacy, right? So, as Xperia knows that, yeah. So, this is about that. It's about in managing this innovator's dilemma. Is what to do next in order not to cannibalize a lot of money that is already in those legacy services. And I mean, SD-WAN is a perfect example. SD-WAN is a perfect example of changing business model. But what I mentioned during the presentation, being ready to pivot, being as far as we can on the market. This is the crucial thing. So the problem is that still companies in telco sector try to customize themselves to death. This is the problem. Customize yourself to death. You spend 3 years implementing the system, then the next year to having a new product on the market. It's just too long, right? So what as a first step, it would be good to do, take the out of the box solutions, implement it as soon as you can, in months, not in years, and then go with the new service to the market, even though it's not perfect one, right? And see if it works. If it works for our customers, let's proceed. Let's improve. If it's not, let's pivot and do something else. This should be the kind of the first step. And implementing agile approach. Something that could bring you like weekly or bi-weekly or monthly improvements, not 2 releases a year, right? This is something that should be done, I think, as a first step towards this digital transformation within telco sector. And first, think fast. Don't overthink. Don't customize yourself to death.
Yeah, but all nice. I used to work for a big French company called Orange. Used to be British actually when they started, but okay. And it's not that easy. I mean, people here sitting in the audience and looking and listening to us virtually around the world, they say, well, you know what, but I work for a big company. There are still 80,000 people working there. How do I get there? What is there to expect? I mean, it's not easy. I mean, talking about iBasis, part of a big group, Tofan, with Alexandre Pébereau being my former boss actually at Orange, he knows exactly what they're talking about. I mean, do you have an example, Edwin? How do you tackle, let's say, those challenges?
As a traditional wholesaler, you need to think different. You cannot longer think only about the traditional services. It's now the customer behind the customer who is driving the demand of the change. And I think that needs different skill sets, different processes, different techniques. I partly agree with what you stated just a minute ago, because if you look at the past 2 years, a year ago or 2 years ago, nobody ever heard of Microsoft Teams. And the entire world converted in 2 years' time in Microsoft Teams, Zoom, WebEx, BlueJeans. We even enabled it and connected it to the old world with direct routing. And we made it happen to connect the old and the new world together. So things can rapidly be deployed. The problem is, are the carriers in between ready to move and ready for that shift already? And that is the biggest struggle as a wholesaler. We cannot drive the change. We can only facilitate the change and give directions and solutions. And that's currently what we are doing. The benefit from an iBasis perspective, we are now independent. We are not part of a big group anymore. So, but we try to facilitate the KPNs, the TDCs, the SFRs and the MEOs and the NOSH of this world to drive their change to the end customer. But you're always, you push, we are the locomotive with respect to that, to drive the big giants, the big telcos in the right direction. And are they all on the same track? No, they all have a different speed. Some are adaptive to change, and some say simply, we are not going into the world of unified communications. We are not going into the world of cloud communications because our processes doesn't fit with the change. We are not ready for a portal. We are not ready for an API marketplace. So it makes it more complicated for us how to serve that in the future. But at the same time, it's a very nice challenge.
René? I mean, being very close to the enterprises, I mean, you're serving the enterprises in 190 countries somewhere around the world?
Yeah, I think one of the advantages that we have is that we're started off very small, right? We were able to invent everything from scratch. And we're continuously doing that. We're already doing that for the fourth time. Just reinventing the company, including the systems and what we're selling, and even the product portfolio, although it still remains internet only. We see the market moving that direction, but also the wholesale partners that we're using, they also want to have it more in an automated fashion. We also interact with them. And if you look at don't customize yourself to death, yes, we have a very strict portfolio, what we're selling. But on the other hand, we are also driven by the customer demand, and especially in the enterprise market, where you see more and more deviations, not that major, but small deviations on the product side, that we are able to at least serve one customer with, and then secondly, productize it and make it available for others. So, yep.
All right. But you have that advantage.
Yes.
You do have that advantage. Now, Ayush, how are you coping with that within the Bankai Group?
Right. So, yeah, like you said, there are two main factors which drive this. A is internal customers to adapt the new changes. B is the customer demand. What Edwin said is correct, is we can only be the facilitators. It is the customer demand, it is the situation which drives us to bring in new solutions, technologies, or services on board for the customers. We typically, in the last 2 years, have seen, like I said in my earlier version, is customers are looking for a one-stop shop. So we have adopted a model which is solutioning. So irrespective of what our trusted customer or we being the trusted vendor for over the years, we try to do the solutioning from a third party and try to become a single source of service provider or a solution provider to them. And I think that model is somewhere been really working for us well. Due to COVID, a lot of larger organizations were either working from home or they were slow on responses. And mid-sized companies like us got a competitive benefit at that time to move fast, to solution it, use A, B, C vendors, and try to meet the need. So yeah, and adaptation of this transformation is first has to be internally within the organizations to change, for larger organizations to adapt how the automation works, because there are a lot of examples today of the customer data platforms and all those things coming in a very huge number. But when it comes to the last mile where the supplier is a large organization, they are still maybe on the legacy standpoints, and that is where it is not exactly meeting the complete purpose of transformation. So I think that how you guys can come in and plug that in will be very important.
All right.
This is what we do.
All right, guys, we need to move on. Jeff, for you to start off with, Chesri talked about 7G and probably had 8G in his mouth already, but let's quickly go back to 5G, because still 5G is, we learn even here in London that still 3G is still working well. We should have the 5G already. But anyway, Jeff, will 5G change the whole wholesale landscape? And if yes, what about IoT, AI impacting wholesale, fixed data and capacity business models? What's your view on all of that?
Yeah, well, going back first of all to the 5G, yes, it is going to make a difference. There are gamers out there that want mobility. They want to be able to get the same experience on their gaming when they're out on the road as they are sitting in their bedroom at 3 o'clock in the morning. So the ability to have that experience, gaming experience, is going to change. So 5G is going to make a difference, and it is going to be very popular again with the millennials. You know, you get, as you go through the older age groups, you know, they just want a phone that they can receive calls, make calls, send text messages, and do a bit of online shopping. So, you know, it is a demographic thing. You know, the younger people will want the 5G, the older people not really bothered. I think the edge computing and IoT is going to make a difference in the carrier market, because a lot of the computing will be done not at the core but on the edge, as in edge computing. So the capacity requirements are going to drop. So that's my 5G is important. It is going to make a difference. It is going to affect some capacity issues in the mobile space. But I think IoT and edge computing can potentially decrease the capacity, the capacity requirements in the carrier space.
Thank you. Talking about capacity, Brendan, what's your take? What's your view on as well on the 5G and on the IoT and the what have you kind of buzzwords?
I think they're all buzzwords that generate significant increases in capacity, as we all know that the exponential growth is there, and particularly in this region, where maybe a little bit behind in some of the countries that we support. That rollout will again create very big demands on us as carriers to support. And I think the change in the dynamics from international data going between, say, Europe and this part of the world, and then more of a localized approach with a lot of the OTTs being based here now, setting up hosting here, will put challenges on our network in regards to supporting those local needs. But those local needs are new, and they're creating a lot of innovation, whether it be an application side or on the gaming side, that therefore we need to replan our networks. And that's where the agility again is very, very important. We need to be very clear about the forecast demand, where it's coming from, getting closer to the end users, to the customers that are generating, the application providers who are generating the new sources of data. And the winners will be those that can anticipate that and build into their capacities the requirement to support that in a seamless continuity way that allows these services to be delivered. Okay,
thank you. Cesare, you mentioned the API. So can you explain a little bit more to us? What's the role of APIs in the telco digital transformation? How are APIs sharing the way digital telco business is built? And on top of that, what are the drivers behind the need for CSPs to invest in APIs? A mouthful, please.
Yeah, okay. In general, APIs and broader speaking, interoperability is a crucial thing for digital transformation and for the transformation of the telco business into the not very distant future. Everybody knows, especially in legacy business, knows how long it takes to make a quotation for a global network of, 900 shops, for example, right? It takes weeks to...
Hold on, 1 second. Is that true? Because you do this kind of stuff.
I'm talking about the legacies here. The experience is much more advanced.
Sorry.
Yeah, it takes. Sometimes it takes weeks for those big elephants like AT&T or Verizon and stuff. And now imagine that you have APIs working between those, AT&T types and other partners. And let it be just only a few steps of the process. So let's say serviceability and quote. That's it. So. And now the Experio and other companies go to those providers and take those quotations and take the serviceability checks just online in real time. So it's gonna cut those weeks to provide the quotation for the final customers to days or even hours. So it's just a crucial thing. Interoperability, it's gonna be a big thing. It's becoming a big thing. It's gonna be a big thing, not only in digital transformation, but in general, in the way telecommunication companies just do the business, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, René, you wanna add something to it?
Yeah, I do. We see a lot of movement on the MEF API standardization. We're also listening in. We're not participating, but we're listening in. And what I do notice is that the vast majority of all those standardization is carrier to carrier, where the major carriers want to exchange quotes, order, billing, etc. However, with all these partners that are in there, you're still unable to cover the world. And what we're seeing is that the vast majority where we also serve these type of carriers with our wholesale portfolio, is that the automation, supplier automation is much more than an API. That means that you need to use any unique identifier, anything that you can agree upon to automate parts of the processes. And with those MEF carrier-to-carrier API, you will cover a lot, but for sure you will not be able to do a global quote of 900 shops or office locations or whatsoever. So yeah, it's difficult for them to move in the same pace and same playground that we are operating in, but it also proves the value that we have also to the wholesale partners.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, guys, and it has been said already and also in the previous panel, I mean, security again. So Jeff, if I may come to you from your point of view, I mean, you oversee the complete market. Surveillance, security, and personal data privacy. What are the new challenges we're facing?
Well, obviously, what's happening in the Ukraine has caused some ripples in the security side. We have a full department that looks at security, but it is becoming more and more prevalent now, especially within financial services. We have 2 or 3 big financial services clients, and they have all over security at the moment. Part of that is because of the issue in Ukraine. So it is. I would say it's one of the highest priorities in financial services at the moment, as it is with other sectors as well. It's going to happen. We're going to get cyber attacks. I think that's almost a given. So therefore, people are trying to put as much protection in as they can at this point in time. But we are going to get these attacks, and it's going to be painful. Okay,
thank you. Edwin?
We are a super hyper connected world now. So let's say the main challenge is to put the right protection in place between the OSS and BSS, that if you are attacked, that you at least your service can continue. We have seen in recent examples what Lockbit ransomware can do, and they can cause a lot of damage. And there is no reasonable negotiation behind that, what they are doing. And I think security by far is number 1 priority this year for many carriers, to preserve what they have and to maintain doing what is currently not controlled. And that's a big challenge, I can tell you that.
Yeah, absolutely. Ayush, you want to comment on that one?
Yes. So virus and antivirus is something we've been having since Windows came in. So like Jeff said as well, that security, as much as you tighten it up, there's going to be another layer of attack coming to you. And with the frequency that we hear every few weeks, one large company got attacked, ransom attack, like he said. Yeah, I mean, it sometimes for a company like us, it wavers our decisions on whether to follow technology or whether to follow traditional processes at times. I'm not saying we personally do that, but yes, that is something which raises concerns all the time. But nevertheless, we are a hyper-connected society, and we need to go on with that, and it will be painful, like Jeff said. It has to happen, but we have to keep moving with the technology, growing on the security part as much as we can.
Okay, Cesare, you mentioned it as well. Any extra words you want to spend on it? Or just to say, listen, guys, it's number one.
Yeah, man, but you mean about security or for the steps? I mean, on the security, I think that's nothing was left to add really. It's we have to just invest and go along with what reality brings really. So it's not really it's nothing really new. But Ukraine just showed that it might be a huge problem for us, going forward. So invest and see what's going on.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, I would like to get some closing statements from you gentlemen. And Brendan, if I may start with you. I mean, we're talking about the wholesale telco industry in this digital transformation area. We quickly bumped into let's say the challenges, big challenges we have, and the opportunities that there are, the interoperability and the interworking in the area of on-demand services. So, what would be, let's say, your takeaway for the audience? I mean, while scoping a little bit the future, what can we expect from your point of view?
I think the major thing I would state is that as much as digital transformation is talked about in terms of applications and services and how consumers, business users are getting the benefits, ultimately, as providers of infrastructure, we've got to provide the same level of transformation in our own businesses to be able to support those services. So equally demanding on us is the role that we play with all the automation, the availability of capacity, the security, the certainty of that service is absolutely essential to maintain the platform for this creativity and this new digital world that we're moving into, or have been moving into, and are moving into at a greater speed. And that puts a lot of pressures on carriers. And we have to change. We have to be agile. At GBI, we've introduced a number of new programs in the last 6 months to ensure that both from a people perspective, but how we deal with our customers, our current carriers, how we not just compete with them, but actually partner with them to ensure that we've got protection of services to customers. So a major change, I think, in the carrier community and what we do. And it's an exciting future for us, but we've got to maintain that focus and ensure we deliver everything that can be delivered into the market.
Okay, thank you. René, if I may come to you.
Yeah, I only have one wish list, one wish actually. What I would like to see is, and looking at it as a customer from wholesale departments of traditional carriers, is that they would create the same user experience, the same customer journey as they do with their customers, their consumers. Right. If you look at the mobility part of a large carrier, it's flawless. They have insight. You can adjust your bundles. You can have insight in your financial statements. Everything is online. Everything is available. And if you go to the wholesale department of that same company, it's like, please send me the Excel file, and you'll get back a PDF. So if they can fix that, transform that, then I, as a customer, would be very happy.
Okay, Ayush.
Thank you. So yeah, adaptation of new technologies or digitally transforming the business is inevitable, is my take, and you have to maintain it so far that your P&L balance is capable enough to take care of the security threats. And still maintain to service your customer the right solution. So I think you have to still maintain a balance till we have all the challenges in place, but the opportunities are way bigger, so there is no looking back now. And continue on so far, you making the right money and serving the customer correctly.
Okay, thank you. Edwin, what is your takeaway?
Yeah, you can't change what will change. So globalization is happening, digital transformation is happening. So the fact is, how do you deal with it? And you cannot play in all the chess fields at the same time. So you have to make your choices and choose your battles. Connecting the old world towards the new world, or connecting the dinosaurs and the millennials to each other, I think it's inevitable. These two worlds are perhaps miles away from each other, but they are very close to each other. And to give you an example, to demonstrate the global termination remains important. Two-factor authentication is supporting SMS at this moment. So we can think of that we are away or miles ahead with our technology, but at the same way, the traditional core services are still, let's say, the basis of, let's say, the success going forward. So my takeaway is wholesale is indeed in transformation, but there is still a brilliant future ahead of us. And let's say, let's use that knowledge and combine it.
Okay, thank you. Before we go to you, Cesare, for your closing statement, Jeff, I would like to hear your views, please, on the future.
Just a closing statement. First of all, I agree that the industry is going down a transformation route, but never forget that transformation is a mindset change as well as a technical change. Right? And I've seen instances where people have forgot about that side of it. You have to change your people's mindset. If you do that, keep up with the technology, absolutely be aware of the security and the cyber attack risks. And the other thing, don't forget about your management aspects. You have to maintain your quality of service through your interoperability. So that would be my takeaway points.
Thanks, Jeff. And last but not least, Cesare, what's your...
Ladies and gentlemen, my takeaway would be automate everything or automate as much as you can. This would be the first one. The second one would be address the changing requirements of the populace, the changing requirements of the people, address millennials, address that's changing world. And the third one would be work on customer experience, because customer journey starts long before the customer is onboarded. So it's very important to squeeze as much information as we can in order for for everybody to really work on well-being of our customers. And basically that's it.
Okay, thank you. And with these words, ladies and gentlemen, first I would like to thank you, the audience, here live and virtually out there on the web, for joining us, and of course these senior gentlemen. So Jeff and Brandon, thank you so much for joining us. Fantastic. And of course, Ayush, René, Edwin, and Cesare, thank you so much, and Enxoo for sponsoring this session. So guys, thank you very much. Have a fantastic lunch, because you look hungry all, and also you're out there, you look hungry. So have some food, and let's regather in a couple of hours again for some more sessions. Thank you very much, Jeff and Brandon. Thank you guys. Thank you here.
Bye.
See you soon.